1970 Citroën DS. It's a French-made car. It's pretty cool. It's got hydraulic independent suspension on all four corners. And the way they engineered it and designed it, thinking about physics, they made it balance, and with the help of hydraulics, this car is able to drive with 3 wheels. So if I took this back wheel off, I could just drive it and it just drive on 3 wheels. So it's in the shop today because it had a rear suspension leak from the hydraulic cylinder on the driver's side. So I rebuilt that, and then we're gonna put it back in and make sure it works, make sure the hydraulics work and everything. Yeah, there's lots of unique features and like unique designs to it. Lots of cool things. Like if you look in the interior, the steering column comes down and attaches to the steering wheel. It's kind of a Citroën design. You don't usually see that. Yeah, so if you notice, the rear fender covers the rear wheel. So if you take this out, I've already loosened it a little. I should have loosened it more. Yeah, but if you take this out, just like that, you set that there. This fender is on 2 pins, one around there and one around there. So to get access to that wheel, slide the fender out, and there you go. Alright, so I have the rebuilt suspension cylinder right here. Feed it through this casing like so, just like that. You got to angle it the right way. And that's, you have your piston arm in all the way. Piston rod. It's easier to do that. Now you just turn it up like this. And right here, there's this little hose here. That's for your overflow. So you have on the boot this little nipple here. You put this hose in, and any fluid that goes into the boot will leak. If it gets overflown, it'll go up into this hose and go back to a reservoir. So now that I have the cylinder in, and I have these 2 holes lined up with there's this ball joint in here. There's a hole on the joint and a hole here. I have this C shaft that I gotta slide through there. There. Grab a little mallet to tap it in the rest of the way. But you want it to go through the hole, through the rubber, and through here, and that pretty much locks these together. So this goes through the rubber, which goes through the piston rod, and it also goes through the joint, and this holds this whole assembly part of it together so that when you're driving down and you hit a bump, it doesn't pop out or anything. There we go. Now I feel it's coming out. It's come out on both sides of those holes, so now we're good and it's not going anywhere. I also have, there's a retainer. So it looks like this, 2 pieces, the bolt from this. So it's kind of snug in there. There, once that's tight, this isn't going anywhere. And then you can put the sphere in. So with the hydraulic suspension, there's a reservoir, it goes to the hydraulic pump, and that pump feeds the hydraulic fluid to each corner of each suspension cylinder. And you have your suspension cylinder fill up, which pushes the piston out here. So the cylinder will fill up and it'll push the piston out, and that'll control your ride height as well. and they use this sphere. So this sphere is half full of nitrogen, and that nitrogen, because it's a gas, it has the ability to compress, unlike the hydraulic fluid that's in it. So when you hit bumps and it's got this acts as a spring, because the hydraulic fluid will, as this lever goes up, hydraulic fluid will push into the sphere and it'll compress the nitrogen, which is essentially dampening the bumps and everything. So this sphere full of nitrogen acts as your coil spring on a regular car, as the dampener, your coil spring and shock, pretty much. So now I'm gonna run the car, make sure this system works. I'm gonna have to put the wheel back on, but from what I've read, this system, the hydraulic system for suspension, automatically bleeds itself. So I just have to cycle the suspension height, like to top, as high as it can go to as low as it can go a few times, and it'll automatically get the air out of the system. And then, yeah, and as long as that all works, and then everything's good to go. And as long as we don't see any more leaks. And some other little things you might notice. So the nuts for the Citroën, for the rims, have these little wings. They kind of look like cowboy hats almost. But that's because, unlike most cars where there's a taper for the nut, this is this smooth round spot. So you need these washers so it tightens up nicely. So when you're putting it on, I like doing it by hand first, just so I know these nuts seat properly and you're not damaging the rim. But usually they self-locate just because of it. Because of the fact it's round, it kind of just falls right into place, just like that. All right, let's hope she starts. Yeah, let's get a booster on that. So I just dumped a little fuel in there to make sure she starts, but after the suspension cylinder's on and good, I'm gonna have to pop that carb off and rebuild it, because the accelerator pump is all cracked and worn. I was able to get it running decent enough to move it around, but I finally got a carb kit in, so now we'll be able to rebuild it, and hopefully it'll run a lot nicer now. Oh, come on, baby. So that lever I was talking about is in here. It's just around here. And this lever adjusts the ride heights all the way up. We'll put the car all the way up, and that'll allow you to put the jack onto the little holding point, and then set it all the way down. So when the car is on the jack, it'll bring the wheels up, and you'll be able to work on it. So it'll lift the system up with the hydraulics, and then you should see that jack should be able to be removed. It takes a few seconds to get up fully. I'll just lower it back down to normal ride height. So that's all. We got the rear suspension cylinder back in, and now it's going to be time for me to rebuild the carburetor and get her running good.